Today, we have a great show lined up for you. So, Freddie, let's jump right into it.
Back in 2013, Bloody Cuts, a UK-based production company, held a horror short film competition entitled Who's There? The idea was to encourage filmmakers to present a 3-minute horror short with the theme being Who's There, of course. The winner was David S. Sandberg's film Lights Out. A very simple film, yet very effective. Basically followed a girl as she is getting ready for bed and turning out the lights to her house. As she turns the lights off, she sees a figure in her hallway. She turns the light bits back on, and nothing. Turn it back on and off. The figure appears and reappears, getting closer and closer with each flick of the light until we finally see the figure's horrible face and the lights go out completely. It's a very simple execution that goes deep into our basic fears of the dark. Well, this film not only won, but garnered the attention of James Wan, director of The Conjuring, who with his production company Atomic Monster funded the full-length film version of Sandberg's short. And this past week, we finally got a trailer to the highly anticipated film and a synopsis.
When Rebecca left home, she thought that her childhood fears were behind her. And as a young girl growing up, she was never really sure of what was real when the lights went out at night. Now, her little brother Martin is experiencing the same unexplained and terrifying events that jeopardized her safety and sanity. Holding a mysterious attachment to their mother, the supernatural entity has returned with a vengeance to torment the entire family. Playing the lead role of Rebecca is Teresa Palmer, who starred in Warm Bodies and has done many genre films, with Wolf Creek and Grudge 2 being some of the most notable.
What did you think of the trailer after watching it?
I'm excited because I love the short film.
Dude, yeah, the short film, actually, I saw it a long time ago. I guess, a year ago or so. But it kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
I came across it on Tumblr.
Yeah, a lot of people just kind of discovered it. It's one of those films that kept getting more and more out there. And, of course, it got the attention of James Wan, of all people. And that just seems like really up his alley, to this kind of horror. So I'm super psyched for it because, as I said, the thing is it kind of delves in your most basic fears of almost, I can't go in with the lights off, or you got to put my head under the covers. Yeah, exactly. So it's a really cool premise. I'm super psyched for it.
The short scared me when I first showed it, because you see the girl standing there, just getting ready to go to bed, turns off the light, and there's something standing at the end of her hallway. You flip it, and you're like, okay, is there someone standing there? Did I just imagine it? Turns it back off, and it's standing there again. I wouldn't have been standing there after the second time.
Well, no. And then it's super freaky, too, because there's little to no music.
And the way it's standing there,
yeah.
You don't know what it is, and it's just like caveman stance.
Yeah. Well, and then Atomic Monster Productions, that's James Wan's company. The next one they're doing also is Boy Who Drew Monsters, and that sounds like a really cool premise, too. It's basically this kid who deals with life where he's drawing pictures of monsters and they all come true, which reminds me of a Tales from the Crypt episode, actually, from forever ago. So he's got like a really cool base coming out of this production company, and this is going to be the big one that kind of puts everything to the forefront.
I agree.
Now, I'm a little concerned with the writer, because the writer on this is Eric Heisier, who did the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, the Thing remake, and is doing the upcoming Van Helsing reboot for Universal, which you all know. You don't remake Wes Craven, you don't remake John Carpenter, and the Universal monster movies that have kind of been coming out as remakes,
There's a few. I mean, Dracula Untold is decent.
I still haven't seen Dracula Untold. And
I'm still friends with him.
Okay, come on now. Just not whatever. But we can both agree Lights Out looks awesome.
Yes, it looks extremely awesome.
Yeah. So that's...
And I'm hoping it stays...
I just hope
like the short, where it's still that creep factor without going overboard.
Well, my thing is, like, how are you going to be continuing that through the whole movie?
That's a good question.
Because also, if you guys have seen, there's a poster for it, and the poster is the light switch with duct tape on it, so it never goes out. But I guess, at
Not
night...
enough duct tape.
Yeah. I guess at night, there's no sun or anything, and the power goes out. I'm just hoping they don't do the usual cliche stuff like, oh, the power's out, we can't do anything. My God, what are we gonna do? I'm hoping we can continue that into a full-length feature. That's gonna be the most interesting thing. But that's the only thing that has me a little concerned is the writing styles of Eric Heisier, who he kind of goes for the cliche stuff and the
Nightmare on Elm Street remake was proof of that.
Yeah, and then the Thing remake was just beat for beat the original Thing, which even though it was a prequel, remake, sequel, I don't even know what the hell to call it anymore. So that's
It's questionable. I
Whatever.
still want to see it, so I'll see. If you've seen the short film, Loda Linston, she was the star of the original short, The Woman in the Hallway, and she also has a little role in this film. So
That's
they
gonna
brought
be
her
cool,
into
yeah.
it. The second they showed the trailer, I recognized her immediately. I'm like, that's the chick from the first one.
Well, that's what's cool about this too is you get the chick from the original one, but I know you're not a big fan, but I love Teresa Palmer, the girl who's playing the I guess protagonist lead in this movie, and I've loved her since Take Me Home Tonight because I'm a huge geek when it comes to 80s throwback movies. Plus, she was in Warm Bodies, and I've seen bits and pieces of that, but I've never watched the whole movie.
It's the Twilight version of zombies.
Oh, God, I am never going to watch that ever then. Jesus.
Is there a place where people can go watch the short for Lights Out?
Yeah, you just go on YouTube, type in Lights Out online, and watch the short, and it'll pop up the trailer probably at this point, so...
Yeah, the trailer should pop up.
Super psyched for that. But the other thing, too, was Atomic Monster. This is going to be a big deal for Lights Out to make a lot of money, because the first collaboration between the studios and Atomic Monster was the Annabelle spin-off movie from the Conjuring franchise, which did you see that movie?
I did.
What'd you think?
Loved it.
Really?
Yeah, it had its flaws, but I loved it for what it was. So, now the hype and buzz on this film is so big that Sandberg is in talks to helm the sequel to Atomic Monster's first collaboration with New Light Cinema, Annabelle. Annabelle was, of course, a spin-off film based on the true story of the possessed doll that was featured in The Conjuring, as Freddie said earlier.
In the film, we learn the origin of the doll as it was a gift from a husband, John, to his wife, Mia, as she collected vintage dolls. One night, disciples of a cult break into their home, and one of them slits their own throat over the doll, spilling their blood on it. The girl who died was named Annabelle, and her spirit was transferred into the doll, who now terrorizes the couple and their newborn baby wherever they go. Okay, so it was a cool premise, had a lot of potential. I remember seeing it in theaters.
It had its flaws.
It had its flaws. My big thing that I liked about it was the demon at the end of the movie that was Satan or whatever demon that was the blood worship cult that they worship.
Yeah.
It was this giant black monster horn thing that was like crawling up at the lead character in an elevator, and that was all practical effects done by KMB Effects Group.
That's
which
the part
anytime
that got me too.
that was awesome,
That
and
was the
anytime
part that got
KMB
me.
Effects Group is mentioned anywhere, I'm just like, this movie's on my radar. I care. Not to mention, practical effects, as I always complain and whine that everything's too CGI. The only thing I thought was kind of weird about this movie was Annabelle never really moves at all.
This isn't even the true story of the actual Annabelle doll. This is all completely made up because Annabelle actually does not have a origin story.
Yeah.
So they completely made everything up, and everybody was like, when they first mentioned Annabelle, people think, Chucky or Puppet Master.
Puppet Master, oh God.
That was mentioned. They think that when you talk about a doll, the doll's going to move and be possessed, et cetera, et cetera. With the origin story, the doll did move, but the people that dealt with the doll never actually physically saw it move. It just moved on its own when no one else was paying attention. And for those who do not know, the Annabelle doll is actually a Raggedy Ann doll, not a porcelain doll.
Raggedy
And it
Ann's
has
more
a
creepy.
small cameo at the very end of the movie when it shows the thrift store and the camera is zooming. You see a Raggedy Ann doll sitting there, and that's supposed to be like the cameo to the original doll.
Look, here we are.
I think the Raggedy Ann doll is more scary looking than the porcelain doll.
Well, the Raggedy Ann doll is just so nasty looking and everything. I'm just like, oh my God.
The real Annabelle doll was given to Donna, which was the girl. She was a college student at the time. Her mother gave it to her in the 70s. Her and her roommate noticed that the doll, like I mentioned earlier, would move around the house without anybody touching it. Within a few weeks, it escalated to full mobility. There was notes appearing, with like on this weird paper. It wasn't like regular paper. It was just like what from their description was like antique paper, vintage paper. And it was like creepy little wordings on it.
See, I'm pretty psyched to see Sandberg come into the role for Annabelle too, because we both agree Annabelle was a fun kind of movie, but it had its flaws. The director was John R. Leonetti, and he was the director of photography on a lot of Tales from the Crypt episodes. Also Child's Play 3, interestingly enough, and then into Insidious 2, which I'm pretty sure is what got him the job for Annabelle and stuff like that.
Insidious 2 was so much better than the first one too.
Now, here we go with what he actually directed. John R. Leonetti directed Mortal Kombat Annihilation and The Butterfly Effect 2. So there's that.
There's that.
I mean, you know, it's a better structured story, I guess, than those other two films, which also surprises me because the screenwriter who is the same screenwriter on this, the original one, is coming back for the second one, Gary Dauberman. I've never even heard of these damn movies. Blood Monkey and Swamp Devil. What the hell is that?
I don't know if it's anything like some of the movies I've seen in the past.
If any viewers at home know what the hell Blood Monkey or Swamp Devil are, please enlighten us, because I saw those and I was just so thrown off. That guy's writing a major studio film?
But it could have its bonuses because usually when you get unknowns or people that haven't worked on big budget, they usually do really well with big budget.
This is true, I suppose.
I guess maybe more peer pressure.
From the writer of Blood Monkey comes Annabelle. And Swamp Devil comes Annabelle 2, the sequel we all thought we wanted, and then turned into a pile of, you know. Bleh. I'm hopeful for it. If Sandberg proves me wrong with Annabelle 2, I'd be so down. Now, I think it all hinges on Lights Out because they need a really good push for Atomic Monster.
Yes, and the release date for Annabelle Part 2 is May 19th of 2017, so we get it next year.
Woo! Now, this past Sunday, April 10th, was the 35th anniversary of one of the most pivotal werewolf films of all time by genre giant Joe Dante, based on the classic Gary Brandner novel, The Howling. In The Howling, Karen White is a news anchor who has a crazed stalker named Eddie Quist. To help catch this sadistic Quist, she agrees to meet him in a seedy porno theater under police surveillance so they can catch him. Eddie forces her to watch a very grimy porno film as he speaks to her from the shadows. When Karen turns, she is horrified to see a devilish face staring back at her, and he attacks, which forces the police to come in and gun him down. From the shock, Karen gets amnesia, unable to remember any of the events from the night, so her therapist sends her and her husband to a secluded therapeutic resort known as The Colony.
Karen starts trying to piece together what she saw that night, while her husband Bill begins to take a liking to the resort and its inhabitants as they all entrance him into their strange, animalistic-like behavior and way of life. The more Karen remembers, the more she realizes that perhaps the monster that dwelled within Eddie may also be dwelling within each member of the colony.
This is my favorite werewolf movie of all time. I'm just going to say it. There's a constant battle between which is better, American Werewolf in London or The Howling.
American Werewolf in London.
Okay, as much as I love American Werewolf in London, you know, can't go wrong with the effects on that thing. It's one of the greatest werewolf transformations of all time. But Rob Bottin will always have a special place in my heart. And The Howling, those effects were so awesome too. Because
I agree.
American Werewolf in London was definitely more of like, you know, four-legged dog kind of thing. Whereas The Howling was more...
Wolfman?
Yeah, more Wolfman. But also gave it kind of a... You know, the ears kind of gave it a Gremlins look, which is before Gremlins. So it was a different type of werewolf to me. Not cute werewolves. Come on now. You wouldn't cuddle with one of the Gremlins. Okay, maybe I would, but...
We might.
It was just such a cool movie, and I'm a huge, unapologetic Joe Dante fan. I've seen everything from Hollywood Boulevard schlock from his Corman days, and Piranha, man. And it's John Sayles who wrote Piranha and Alligator, by the way, which is one of the best thrown away baby alligator movies of all time, if there are any of them. Also wrote The Howling. So I am so down with this movie. Now, I give it to you. What are your thoughts on The Howling?
I love The Howling. I have nothing bad to say about The Howling. But if you had me choosing between this and American Werewolf in London, I'm going to pick American Werewolf in London. But it's really close. Really close. But I'm not dogging it. I enjoyed this movie.
Rick Baker, of course, you know, he did the American Werewolf in London effects. It was so funny, too. One of my favorite stories is, I think this is where the rivalry comes between the two films, was Rick Baker wanted to do more old school kind of werewolf effects, and Joe Dante had him hired on The Howling first. But he was best friends with John Landis, and Rick Baker had promised John Landis back when they were like in their 20s, okay, we'll do this werewolf movie whenever you get it finished. 10 years later or so, oh my God, it's written. We got to go now. So Rick
We're
Baker,
set.
Rick Baker was always pissed. He's like, I want to do the contemporary, like old school werewolf movie. Now I got to do this one. But we got 2 awesome movies out of it. So
Can't
I was
complain.
super down with it. I also love Dick Miller in the film. If you guys don't know Dick Miller, he is in every friggin' Joe Dante or Roger Corman movie. He's always that guy in the background. He's the Futterman, one of the Futtermans from Gremlins. And if you guys ever seen Bucket of Blood, he plays Walter Paisley in that. He's the beatnik guy who kills people to make his art perfect. And he has a bookstore in the Howling, which is where they find out all the information about werewolves and stuff like that. And he's named Walter Paisley.
I wanted to go to that library too.
It was so funny too. He's like, yeah, I got 32 silver bullets made for some jacko. He never picked them up. You can
Just
have
so
them if you
casual.
want. Yeah, it's like no big deal. Let me tell you something about werewolves. I love that guy. That is one of my favorites. You also get in that same bookstore, Uncle Forey, for you guys who don't know, Forrest J. Ackerman, the guy who created Famous Monsters of Filmland, he is buying a Famous Monsters book in that bookstore.
Nice.
Classic. Plus, E.T.'s mommy's a werewolf. Dee Wallace, guys. You can't go wrong with
that.
Dee Wallace. What are some of your favorite scenes from the movie?
The beginning scene when she's in the porn store, because
was
I know
so-
she was really, really uncomfortable filming that
Yeah.
scene, and you can really tell with the way her body movement is. I don't know why I like it. I guess because it's sadistic. I'm all for
It starts off as a slasher movie.
Yeah, and she goes in there, and you get the porn film, and it's kind of graphic, and you hear him talking to her from behind, and she's just sitting there, and then that slow turn. That's just my favorite scene.
We got H. John 32 here. What would be your top 10 werewolf movies, Ash?
I'm gonna have to sit there and think.
I would definitely say Dog Soldiers, The Howling, American Werewolf in London. The newest one I saw that was really cool was Late Phases.
Yet have seen. Oh,
Late
I need
Phase
to see
is
that. I've been
amazing.
hearing so many good things about that movie.
And then Twilight would be the bottom, negative 100 as the worst werewolf
I
movie
thought you were
of all
gonna say
time.
number one.
No. There's so many like I've seen at this point. I'm trying to remember all of them, but Dog Soldiers is definitely one of my favorite werewolf movies of all time.
I can't
Probably
believe you
that and
haven't said
Howling
Jack
neck and neck.
Nicholson Wolf.
You know, I haven't seen that one either. I'm super behind, guys. I'm sorry. I'm the worst.
Don't worry, I'll kill him later.
Okay, so at one point Joe Dante was going to do a Jaws movie instead of this.
Nice.
But it was going to, so at this point you had Jaws by Spielberg, Jaws 2, The Revenge, and what they were going to do was National Lampoons was going to come in and do Jaws 3, People Zero. Can you guess what that is?
Do I want to guess what that is?
It's their parody movie because they love Piranha so
I was thinking,
much.
because you say National Lampoons, I'm thinking comedy, parody, funny, humor with Jaws.
Yeah. This is Joe Dante. Come on, went on to do Gremlins. But he was taking off that movie to go do The Howling at that point, which I think is interesting because
kinda glad that happened.
The Howling is probably one of the darkest movies in his any of the films he's done. He's always done like slapstick kind of funny stuff every now, especially he loves the Looney Tunes stuff. Even in his Twilight Zone segment, he's done more of a I guess cartoony, Looney Tunes like I said. But The Howling, like, it starts off as a straight slasher movie
And then just slowly.
and slowly
gravitates.
descends in this madness. And he tried so hard to kind of push it as that. And, of course, this is back in the days before internet and stuff like that. So you actually get that kind of surprise with it. So that's one of the things I love from that.
I also wanted to mention that Silver Bullet's a personal favorite.
Oh my God, I
of mine.
can't believe I forgot Silver Bullet. I love Silver Bullet.
Yeah, I have a few people that don't like it, but it's Stephen King. And I know that it didn't technically stick to the short story, but I still loved it regardless.
Yeah, but you get the Corey, one of the Corys. Plus, you also get Crazy Uncle.
And you got a
before they
preacher
actually
doing
went
the
insane.
killings.
That was awesome. The preacher as the werewolf. That was one of my favorites too. I can't believe I forgot Silver Bullet. I feel like an idiot
And
now.
I can't believe you've never seen Wolf.
Well, I mean, hey. Wolfen's a good one too.
Yeah. There's a lot of werewolf movies.
I just gotta like sit down and actually think about them.
That's one of those moments where I have to sit down and think about top
H.
10.
John 32. I would agree. Bad Moon. Probably in the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
There's another one that just came out called Wolves that I really want to see, and it's a bunch of werewolves on a train. It sounds like the worst idea ever, but it's got a lot of accolades and kudos from people in the festival circuit. I'm always down for practical effects werewolves too, though. That's my big deal with everything.
That dude Daniel asked, what about TV shows with werewolves like Bitten or Being Human?
I love the UK version of Being Human. I've never seen the American version. I'm a huge fan of the UK version.
I've
of that
seen parts of the American version of Being Human, actually never seen the original, and I have not seen Bitten. But I know exactly what the shows are and what they're about. I've just never personally watched them.
As I've said before on many episodes talking about Tales from the Dark Side, there are some awesome episodes on that with werewolves. One of my favorite would probably be the episode Tom Savini directed, where the father realizes his son is a werewolf and like chains him up in a house, like hiding him from his mom. And you come to find out the mom's trying to, find him, hunt him down, figure out what's going on. Her and the social worker break in, bust down the door with chains, and little wolf baby's there, and the mom turns into a wolf too, and they eat the father and the social worker. And it's this awesome, like, gruesome thing, and at the end of it, wolf baby and wolf mama are like, oh, I love you.
I just like that you're saying wolf baby.
Dude, I don't know, man. Wolf Cop is terrible. Smaze PvP. That's just good, wholesome fun right there for the whole family. Thank you, 409. Wolf Cop is terribly awesome.
And you didn't mention Wolfman from 1941 either.
Oh, well, of course. I feel like that one goes without saying. Come on now.
Oh, that's right. He likes the remake instead.
No. All right, if we're going to
totally
go off on the
joking.
remake, dear God, the remake is what has ruined cinema
I just like
only
making them go
because Rick Baker, who did American Werewolf in London's effects, for the longest time spent his whole life wanting to do an old school werewolf makeup like the Wolfman, finally gets to do it in the remake with one of his favorite people on earth, Joe Johnston, the director who worked on Star Wars with him, and they cover it up completely with CGI. That's why Universal has lost... Ugh. I've lost most of my faith in them.
Maybe eventually we'll do a whole episode on nothing but werewolf movies, just so we can hear Freddy rant again.
Teen Wolf, the original movie, not the TV show, for or not, I would go with that one as well, because that would be
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
and Underworld. There's so many. We'll do an episode eventually on werewolves. Celebrating its 10-year anniversary is now the cult classic, Slither, by none other than Guardians of the Galaxy writer and director James Gunn. Just as Joe Dante came out of the low-budget Roger Corman camp, James came out of the super low-budget schlockfest that is Troma Studios with a writing credit on the classic Tromeo and Juliet. Coming off of writing both Scooby-Doo films and the Dawn of the Dead remake, James finally got to sink his teeth into writing and directing a big-budget creature feature for Universal, which became Slither. In Slither, locally weatherly car dealer Grant is having a drunken night in the woods, feeling rejected by his wife Starla.
So Grant finds satisfaction in local bartender Brenda. While getting ready for a dirty good time, a meteorite carrying a parasitic extraterrestrial hits and infects Grant. Over the next few days, Starla begins to notice her husband Grant seems very strange and has developed an appetite for raw meat. Without her knowing, he impregnates lonely Brenda with hundreds of his offspring as his sanity and looks deteriorate. He attacks his wife Starla with strange tentacles coming out of his body, and it's up to Sheriff Bill and a ragtag group of rednecks to hunt down the now monstrous Grant. But as they finally think they have this problem solved, Brenda gives birth to hundreds of alien parasites that begin to infect the entire town and makes Ashley queasy and feel disgusted for the whole hour and a half you're watching that film.
She didn't give birth. She exploded.
It was the greatest explosion of slugs
Oh,
ever.
she gives birth. Oh, she gets impregnated. No. She gets impaled with these nasty tentacles, which tentacles are disgusting anyway, and then explodes. Not give birth.
What do you expect from a James Gunn movie, though? This is a guy who wrote Tromeo and Juliet. This is one of my
So so disgusting.
favorite films to come out of like 2000, 2010 area. Because at this time, you weren't getting a lot of creature features, I feel like. But this one was just so far out there. And a lot of people compare it to Night of the Creeps. But Gunn himself has said it's kind of more in tune with Shivers and The Brood by Cronenberg, which Cronenberg is all about the shock value and the nastiest things he can come up with. So it's so crazy because he takes that Cronenberg feel of just the gritty and mean-spiritedness of it, but also makes it fun. Plus, ragtag group of rednecks. Can't go wrong with that.
Just like my hometown.
Do you have a ragtag group of rednecks that would kill everybody?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately.
That's-
It's Texas. What do you expect?
You had a lot of trauma cameos in this movie, too. You actually have Lloyd Kaufman. This sucks, too, because Lloyd Kaufman, of course, the guy who created Troma, and Toxie, the Toxic Avenger, he had a cameo as the drunk guy kind of barreling out of the bar. But unfortunately, I got cut from the movie. You had so many different crazy people in this movie, though. Like the mayor who just loses his mind over the fact that he doesn't have a damn soda he likes.
I was gonna say the soda.
Yeah.
I just remember him in the soda constantly, but I can't remember the soda that he's drinking.
I love it too because when he actually gets killed by one of the townspeople who's infected, he's like, she goes up to him and starts trying to get him and goes, I'm tired of all you damn Republicans, all your lies and everything. And I just lost my mind. It was one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time.
This movie's funny. It's just so gross.
They have so many little things they put in there too, because there's the little kids reading books, which, by the way, kids die in this movie and it is pretty gruesome. They're reading Goosebumps books. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but you're not going to find some of the stuff you see in this movie in a Goosebumps book. R.L. Stein's even like, that's a little too much for me there. But it hardcore underperformed at the box office. People consider this like one of the biggest fails of all time. And I hated it too because a lot of people were quoted saying that the world just wasn't ready for another monster movie, and monster movies are dying out. They're a dying breed. I just thought that was so dumb. Like, you can still get good monster movies. People will come and see them, obviously. It's just...
Especially the horror fans.
That's what I'm saying. You just gotta... I think a lot of people were still hung up on the fact that it's so similar to Night of the Creeps. And don't get me wrong, Fred Decker's Night of the Creeps is one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's so different tonally.
I agree.
Yeah, this one has such a more...
Maybe fits in the same genre aspect, but...
Yeah,
its own.
Such a more wicked sense of humor, though. And Night of the Creeps was kind of... It's like Monster Squad. It's cheesy 80s fun.
I think this one, not as much as the 80s cheesy factor, but it still had its cheesy factor.
Well, it was more, I feel like it was more like in tune with the 50s monster movies, and they took that and put in a lot of the black humor and stuff like that.
You gotta like the dark humor.
Deacon Logic, Slither was awesome. Anyone who said it wasn't is dumb. Thank you, sir. Okay, we got Ricky Burke. Lon Chaney will always be my favorite werewolf. I agree with that. His soda's not Fresca. He wanted Big Red, wasn't it?
I thought it was Fresca. Was it Fresca? It's not Big Red.
It was something stupid.
I almost wanted to say Fanta, but I don't think that's right either.
No. Well, if you stay after the credits too in this one, you see a cat death.
I saw the credits.
I never knew that until I recently rewatched it, and I was like, "Holy crap! They just were killing a cat for no reason after the credits."
Animal brutality.
Apparently. I also love the fact, so like we said before, James Gunn comes from the schlock of Trauma. There is not much schlockier than Trauma unless you go to a Frank Henenlotter movie, such as Basket Case, Frankenhooker, or Brain Damage.
Frankenhooker.
And the scene in the movie where they're going to the Deer Fest, where it's basically a giant festival for rednecks kill deer, and they're like, yeah! It's called Henenlotter's Lodge. I just thought that was one of the greatest nods ever.
Oh, and talk about cameos. Rob Zombie was the voice of Dr. Carl, who's talking to Starla on the phone. And a lot of people had no idea that was Rob Zombie. I didn't even know that was Rob Zombie until later.
We have Bread and Butter. There should be a horror film, but from the view of the monster killer. There's actually in VHS 2, if you haven't checked that one out, the guy who directed the original Blair Witch Project, he did a segment where you have a zombie who has a camera on his head because he was, you see him turn into the zombie. He's a GoPro kind of guy. And as he's, riding along, he gets bit by a zombie, and you see the entire process of him transforming into a zombie, and you see the whole zombie apocalypse through his eyes, to the point where before he finally turns, he wants to end his life. Basically, he can't take wanting to eat people anymore. So that's a really cool one if you haven't checked that one out.
What a weak man.
What a weak man?
Yes, what a weak man. Oh, I can't take it. I'm going to be a cannibal. Just own it. Just eat people.
What? Come on now.
You're telling me if you got bit by a zombie, you wouldn't be like, okay, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to go eat people before I get shot.
You, madam, are sadistic as all hell. The redneck group in your town probably ran you off.
I plead the fifth.
What'd you think of Nathan Fillion in the movie?
He's adorable.
Hey, I love his kind of redneck accent in it too, hick voice.
It's pretty accurate in some cases.
I love Nathan Fillion in pretty much just about anything. But I will say this, I guess, shoot, man. It's 100th time I've watched it at this point. I was finally kind of looking at it, I'm like, huh. Nathan Fillion's kind of a jerk in this movie a little bit.
Yeah, after you watch it a couple of times, you start realizing, wait,
like,
you're kind of a douche.
He kind of stole that dude's wife. Even, he turned into a monster, but he's planning on doing it the whole time.
Well, if you were her, would you rather pick?
Look, I'm just saying. Michael Rooker's character is taking over the entire planet, and he's going to save her.
And turning into this ugly, nasty, alienated blob of a thing.
Which had everyone kind of fusing with it,
That was, oh.
Everybody's getting naked, like, that reminded me so much of the Blob. I also love, he's like, you bitch, I can't take this anymore. You said it was forever.
The way his face and his body, ugh.
You said you could never see Michael Rooker the same after that movie, correct?
For a while, I could not look at that man until Walking Dead came. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is what he looks like normal. Just keep this mental image in your head. Don't think of Slither.
Dude,
traumatized.
I will say, even with Walking Dead, I just kept waiting for him to turn into the giant monster again. I was like, oh, he could kill all the zombies if he was the monster guy.
He's taking all the zombies out. They're going to fuse together and make one huge epic zombie.
That's actually, I think, how Robert Kirkman should end the series, is Merle turns into Grant from Slither, and he gets all the little monsters and everything. He's like,
imagine how grotesque that thing would be.
That would be epic.
That'd be really
grotesque. Rotting
grotesque.
flesh and monsters. That's how I would rock it. I'm just saying.
So, Freddy, let's move on to some better news.
Slimy.
So this past Friday was the birthday of one of horror's biggest and unkillable slashers, Kane Hodder. Kane, of course, is most known for his roles as Jason Voorhees and Victor Crowley of Hatchet fame, which we confessed our love, which I know I did, last week. Today we took a look at two of our favorite films from his catalog of brutality and manslaughter. For my Kane Hodder pick, I chose a film that's super independent and gives Kane a really crazy acting role in Exit to Hell. In Exit to Hell, a local gang rob a mafia-run strip club, shooting up the place and killing anyone in sight. They head south for the border, but when they enter the town of Redstone and begin terrorizing the locals, they bring about the rage of the town sheriff known as Sickle. The group begins following by the mafia, gunning down and terrorizing anyone tied to them, is trapped between the mafia and the sadistic hands of Sickle.
I hate this damn movie.
It's so bad that it's good.
No, it's not.
No, you can't diss Kane Hodder at all.
I'm not dissing Kane Hodder.
This movie, I'm warning y'all right now, it's really, really cheesy. It's a ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Hardcore.
Meets Grindhouse, attempting to do Grindhouse. It's literally an hour and 20 minutes of every horror movie you could possibly think of thrown into one thing, with Kane Hodder being the psycho killer sheriff.
That's so contradictory right there, though, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre is already Grindhouse.
Yes. Well, I mean, like,
so just call it what it is, a half-assed Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That would be a way to put it. But when I say Grindhouse, I'm trying to give the way, the coloring, the contrast, everything in the film. Because Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the coloring and all that wasn't like how Grindhouse is now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at. This movie, I'm warning you now, is very, very cheesy. It's on Netflix.
It took me 2 days to watch.
I pretty much made him suffer trying to watch it.
It was, I mean,
it's
there's
still not worse than Hellions.
No, it's worse than Hellions.
No, it's
I'm
not.
going to say that.
No, it's not.
Because Kane Hodder
At least this movie makes you laugh.
No, it doesn't.
It has
It's so
horrible
badly
cheesy
acted.
Factors.
Every female on this movie.
Yeah, the chicks are horrible.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
They act like Freddy.
Oh, God, shut up. Because they're all strippers and hookers. They look like they all have gonorrhea. Then you get all the dudes.
Hey, at least the accuracy on what strippers actually look like is accurate.
Oh my
No offense
God.
to some strippers out there, but let's be real here.
Like, there was not enough Kane Hodder to save this movie. Every time he popped on, I'm like, oh,
Well,
hey,
yeah, the
what's
first
going
15, 20 minutes, you're sitting there like, okay, where's Kane? Where's Kane? Or at least I was. I was sitting there, I'm like, okay, where's Kane? Come on, Kane.
Bad
Where are you,
directing.
Kane? I'm having to deal with horrible acting for you, Kane. And then finally he shows up with that weird little kid.
Yeah, that starts eating. Then it's like Dennis from Cabin Fever.
Yeah, that kid was.
It's just like this guy.
It literally takes every horror movie you could think of, and it's mushed into one little thing. You could tell what was kind of maybe the inspiration, or maybe they're trying to make it original and failed at it.
Well, the director had some short film called Zombie Wars they made like forever ago, and it was so poorly acted and done and written, and all the actors looked like he got them off of a. He looked like he got them off of a porn site.
They might have been.
And you survived the zombie wars. I respect you, but must cut out your liver. Oh,
So they talk
God.
like you.
No, I do not talk like that. Thank you very much. Dear God. And that's the opening of the movie because they're watching the zombie wars on the TV. No.
You see zombies going at it on TV.
They're having sex. What
The
aren't they
first
doing?
10
man?
minutes, you're actually watching the short, and you're sitting there like, wait, this isn't the movie. This is not Kane Hodder. This has nothing to do with zombies, and you realize the guys are watching in a hotel room.
It's bad, guys.
I'm willingly admitting it that it's bad. It's
just
cheesy
go
bad.
on YouTube and watch
But
every scene with
watch
Kane
it.
Hodder.
Yes, it's Kane Hodder. I love Kane Hodder. He can do no wrong in my eyes.
Well, for my pick, I chose something with a little more class in life.
He wishes.
Thank you. I went back into Kane's stunt days with a little film from Empire Pictures called Prison. In Prison, a criminal named Burke is sent to a dilapidated prison that's just reopened its doors under old school warden Sharp. This isn't Sharp's first time in this old prison, and another inmate by the name of Cresius knows why the warden is haunted by it. This is one of the most insane movies of all time, in my opinion, because Burke is basically sent into the catacombs of this prison where the electric chair used to be, starts digging it up, and as soon as a hole is made, flashes of light go through the entire place. Then you get awesome John Carl Buechler effects, which, by the way, guy who made the original Troll and a bunch of other Empire movies like Ghoulies, Monster in the Toilet, can't go wrong with that. And it's so crazy because a lot of the effects in the movie, it starts off with people just being killed by anything and everything. Because this is Empire Pictures. This is Charlie Band, the guy who eventually does Full Moon Pictures and stuff like that. Well, because of money constraints, they would just find stuff and be like, okay, we're going to kill this person today with, okay, we got some rope and some electrical wire. So they did it up and they made it look like the rope went through and like kind of came out of the guy and hung him. It was some of the most crazy death scenes I've seen in a movie in a long time. And so the whole time you get Burke, who's played by Viggo Mortensen, by the way, trying to figure out what Cresius and Warden Sharp had done to piss off this evil spirit and save his fellow inmates. And you really care about all the inmates, actually. It's really cool.
The inmates are likable, but I should toss out that if you're watching this movie and wondering where Kane Hodder is at, he's the stuntman for majority of this movie. You see him in the background when they're in the prison courtyard with the mullet and the what I call pedo stash. And he's one of the characters, one of the guards where you don't see his face. So don't like this when you hear this movie, it's not flashing Kane Hodder.
Kane!
And he was talking about how lack of Kane Hodder was an exit to hell.
Hey, at
There's
least
lack
this
of
is
Kane
a
Hodder in
fun
this
movie. The whole movie screams Kane Hodder, though. All the stunts were done by him. He actually helped
But you don't
Viggo
see his
Mortensen.
face.
But you get Viggo Mortensen.
Yes, he helped Viggo.
He helped Viggo Mortensen learn all of his stunts and become a stuntman, which he would not have been able to do on Lord of the Rings without Kane Hodder's help. Let's be honest about that. Also, Kane Hodder plays the super giant crazy monster at the end with the skeleton and everything. Best
Ginormous
part,
monster.
though, you get John Carl Buechler on this movie, who brought Kane Hodder on, also brought him into Friday the 13th Part 7, which gave him the role of Jason Voorhees. And the sculpt and look of the creature from the end of Prison is what made John Carl Buechler decide to do that crazed-looking Jason in Part 7, New Blood. So without Prison, you don't get Kane Hodder in the Friday the 13th
Prison,
movies.
though. I'm just saying.
Ooh,
You
girl.
don't see him very much.
But
I was expecting
So you
Kane
see
here
him,
and Kane here
you
and
see
Kane
him
here.
in Friday the 13th
Oh.
franchise.
He's Jason. You see the character
You see the character of the monster in here. It's
for like the end of the movie.
yeah, but he's the driving force.
Well,
to
what
kill
I'm
everyone.
getting at is like, with Friday the 13th, at least you see Jason pop up here and there. With Prison, I was up on the monitor looking for him, and I was spotting other actors in the movie. Like Tiny is in this movie, and I wasn't expecting to see him in it.
H. John 32. I believe Kane Hodder should have a star on the Walk of Fame.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting in this movie too. Tom Matthews, who played the grown-up version of Tommy Jarvis in Part 6. Sorry, he was originally going to play the lead character that Viggo Mortensen actually played. So you also get Chelsea Fields as the kind of female protagonist in this movie. She plays a psychiatric evaluator who tries to help the inmates. She
She has sympathy for the inmates.
She actually went on to play Tila in the Masters of the Universe movie, which I thought was pretty awesome. My other favorite cameo, and I think this is his first big movie, Tommy Tiny Lester. If you guys don't know who that is, that's Debo from the Friday movies and Cassius from Little Nicky.
That was the cameo.
He is super duper young in this, and it is insane. This movie's also
a baby in this.
Yeah, but he's so friggin' huge.
Big. He's not as intimidating. I guess I should get at that.
He takes a shotgun to the chest and keeps going. Because the thing is, when the climax happens and the prison's put under like this super spell by this ghost, the whole prison goes crazy. All the guns are taken over by the ghost, and the guards start fighting the inmates, thinking the inmates are killing everybody. And it is insane. Tommy Tiny Lester has to actually stop the guards so the rest of the inmates can escape. And as they get in the courtyard, Ghost takes over the machine gun looking down at the courtyard and starts just firing on everybody. It is so awesome.
He was so sweet in this movie. It's so odd.
He really was. It was kind of crazy. But you kind of... I like to think... So if you guys know Dark Knight with Heath Ledger and Christian Bale, Lister actually plays one of the inmates on the prison ship, and he's the one that decides...
He's the one with the...
With the remote, he's like, we're the ones that deserve to die. I like to think that his character from prison goes into Dark Knight.
It's a continuation.
It's a continuation.
He somehow ended up in Gotham.
Saved Gotham. That's my idea. We also get the producer is Irwin Yablans, who, if you guys don't know, he produced the Howling movies, and his whole concept was prison is one of the scariest places on earth. Let's do a horror movie there. But of course, what's scary about a dude with a knife going around shanking people in prison when every other guy does that? Throw in a supernatural aspect, and you're good to go. Other best part, most of the prisoners in the movie, the extras, were actual prisoners from a neighboring facility.
I wonder how they gained that trust.
The craziest one, though, was there's a character who kind of has, basically, he makes this little kid his bitch. He had, it's telling like it is,
Freddy's life.
Yeah, exactly. But he was an actual prisoner who was in the Actors Guild of America. And the reason he was in prison was he was a stunt man on another movie, got into a bar fight, and killed a guy. So he went to prison, but still had his Actors Guild of America approval. So he actually got acting guild credits on that movie while in prison.
That's a way to do it.
That's what I'm saying. This movie's pretty legit. So it's also Rennie Harlan, who went on to do Nightmare on Elm Street 4. This was his first movie ever. Of course, this got him the Nightmare on Elm Street movie, which went on to Die Hard 2 and all those other crazy 80s movies he'd done. So this is, for me, is a pivotal movie that brought us a lot of good actors and directors and put.
I wasn't expecting Vigo to be in this.
Yeah, Vigo's first movie, man. He's awesome.
A baby face. So
I thought you were gonna call him a babe because I know you're all about
that
Vigo.
too, but baby face. Wasn't expecting it.
Vigo.
So cute. It's like a James Dean thing going on.
That's what Rennie Harlan wanted. He said, I need like a James Dean.
That's what it reminded me of, James Dean.
And so they kind of played him like that. That's what I thought was so
Part of
cool.
me was kind of hoping Crybaby a little bit.
Crybaby?
Yeah. The slicked back hair and the jawline.
And you say you're on nothing but dreamboats and horror movies. All right, so for all the movies that make you watch, what'd you think of this one? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'd give it like 6 or 7.
I can live with that. So that is my pick for Kane Hodder Guy's Prison. If you guys want to check it out, they actually have a Scream Factory special edition that's been put out with a director's commentary, all kinds of special features out the wazoo. Go check it out.
So we talked a lot about of movies hitting home video or movies that exclusively hit home video. And today we want to talk about a cult classic that turns 20 years old. It turned 20 years old on April 9th. That film is the return of the underground killers known as Graboids in Tremors 2 Aftershocks. Tremors 2 is set a few years after the original film as we see Earl, who with the help of Valentine in the first, became famous monster hunters, squandering his money on a failed ostrich farm. He's approached by a man who works in his oil field after being killed by graboids.
With the insistence of a young man named Grady, Earl is convinced to go hunt the graboids for a ton of money. At first, the graboids are killed off by Earl and Grady pretty easily until they realize there are far too many of them to handle alone. So they enlist the aid of fellow graboid survivor Burt Gummer from the original film, and the trio set to work dispatching the graboids. Unfortunately for them, the game changes as the graboids morph into a newer, possibly deadlier creature that can run above ground, multiply as it eats, and can see body temperature. These new creatures are called Shriekers, and they force our heroes to up their game. As much as I love the original Tremors, this film has so much going for it, I think. Obviously, with the Shriekers coming in, it was choppy CGI, early 90s, late 90s stuff. This is actually supposed to be a $17 million sequel shot in Australia. But because there's so many concerns about it and everything, the studio kind of decided not to give it the green light. And Universal had just gotten their straight-to-video branch. So they gave it, I think, a budget of $4 million, greenlit it, and was like, just shoot in the backyard lot.
Just go over here and shoot
yeah,
it.
pretty much. So it's
No more Australia, just go back here.
for that though. It's really crazy because it's such a good movie for a straight-to-video movie. Like back in the day, there are some great straight-to-video movies. As opposed to today, it's just like throw this crap on a camera. We'll launch
Today
it at
it's
somebody.
not like it used to be.
Yeah, this one had so much going for it. You even got, the original guys coming back. Burt Gummer, of course, has been every Tremors movie ever made. Even Part 5, which, honestly, it's on Netflix right now. It's got Jamie Kennedy in it. If you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch just for, giggles.
For giggles.
Yeah, of course. But I was so impressed with this movie when I first saw it. And I never knew that was a straight-to-video movie. It actually went to one theater April 9th for one day. Jeez. And then this is how old it was. The next day it went on Laserdisc.
Nice.
So this was the first time for you seeing it in a long time. Ash.
Yeah, it's
What'd you
been a
think?
while because usually when you go on TV or Netflix, it's usually the first films. Hadn't seen this one in forever. I forgot how cute they were when they turned into the Shriekers. I thought they were cute. The worms are nasty. The whatever I call them worms. They the
graboids.
And no, but them as the little Shriekers with the little hoppy moving little. They're cute.
Egg Shin from Big Trouble in Little China in the first movie named them graboids. I should call them graboids always.
Graboids.
So of course
nasty worm creatures.
We're missing Kevin Bacon, who played Valentine. He was replaced by Grady, who's played by Chris Garton, I think. Mm-hmm. He played Hugo on True Blood, that's probably the biggest thing he's done in a long time. So it's meh. Also, Burt Gummer. I thought this was pretty funny. Michael Gross, who plays Burt Gummer, I never put two and two together. He was Stephen Keaton from Family Ties. But he's also going to be coming up in a anthology movie we've been talking about a couple of times, Holidays, by Kevin Smith and the guys who made Starry Eyes. So I am super psyched to see, like I said, saw Tremors 5, loved him in that. I love to see him in another horror movie.
Yeah.
I also love, in this one, they have dealt with the graboids before, so you kind of get an idea. They have an idea of what they want to do, how to take them out.
They already have a plan.
Yeah, and it's super funny, too, because they just put little toy cars with, dynamite on them, have them run around, graboids eat it, blow them up.
I like when they're just sitting there, just waiting. You just see a little car. Wait, I lost it. Oh, no, there it is.
Yeah.
Going through the huge, tall grass.
Also,
all different types of cars, too.
My other thing, though, was Bert. He's the military guy. He has a little toy tank that he has rolling around. And he's got 4 pounds of C4.
He goes all out.
That thing explodes hardcore. Throws him back, and he's like, note to self, 4 pounds of C4 might be a little bit too much.
You think?
Right. Creature effects are really cool on the graboids too in this one, and the Shriekers, because when they're not long distance shots, if they're close up, the Shriekers actually are all practical effects. So you got
in the cage.
Yeah. And so it's Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. who worked on the Predator movies. Worked with Stan Winston Studios and Phil Tippett Studios, who did the Star Wars movies originally. He'd worked on the CGI. Phil Tippett's always kind of evolving with the times, but Alec Gillis and Woodruff Jr., man, they're two of my favorites. So especially for creature effects, worked on Pumpkinhead. They of course did
Pumpkinhead's awesome.
The cool effects for the Thing remake before it was covered in CGI. But yeah,
Stop covering things in CGI.
It's always Universal. That's what threw me off too. I'm like, man, Universal used to be cool with the Universal monster movies, and then Tremors 2 was straight to DVD, and then all of a sudden they just cover everything with CGI. What'd you think of the reason though why Burt Gummer's wife left him?
Oh, over the Soviet Union?
Yeah, he's on the phone and he goes, yeah, she left me. She said that I was not the same since the war with the Soviet Union's over, and I'm not scared of the Red Scare anymore. I got nothing to live for. I was like, oh my God. This guy
That's what makes them
He's
separate.
been waiting for World War III, and since World War III is not happening, he's done.
He's just given up on life
Yeah.
until he says graboids.
Yeah, then well, in that
It's like
shot, too,
life comes back to him.
that's one of my favorite reveals. It's kind of panning the wall of guns and all this stuff, and you
Then
see
the
the
huge
heads on the wall, and then a giant graboid head. Dear God, that was just the epic moment where I'm like, this is my movie right here. We also have so with the shriekers, they see differently, which I thought was kind of interesting. The graboids are all sound, shriekers are all, of course,
Body heat.
Body heat. So for the actors, they had to wear red suits with yellow stockings, and it was shot in high-8 videotape, and then blown up to 35 millimeter to add the grimy effect. So for all those scenes that you see in the infrared, they actually have like different suits on to show it off. So I thought that was really interesting how they kind of did that.
I like
real
that,
simple effect stuff.
I like that when they first discovered them and they're trying to figure out if they go by sound. And then it reminds me of that dinosaur from Jurassic Park when it opens and it makes the shrieking noise. That's exactly what I think of every time the little thing on their head opens up.
For some reason, when I was a kid, before I was like really into horror movies, I saw Tremors 2 once or twice, and it was just bits and pieces. It was always the shriekers. And when their like little flaps came up and you saw the insides, it always just made me feel so uncomfortable as a kid. I was like, oh my God, that's so freaky.
That's how I felt about their tongues in the first one.
The snake tongues. I will say this. The only 2 Tremors movies worth watching, in my opinion, are... Well, okay, 3. I will technically give it 3. 1 and 2. Part 3, you get the ass blasters, which are the flying pterodactyl-looking god-awful ideas with overt CGI that just looks like a sci-fi channel movie. Then you get part 4, which is the god-awful beginnings, whatever the hell have you, where it's set in the 1800s.
Don't even bother with it.
Yeah, that's terrible. But then you get part 5, which is the only time I think the ass blasters are fun. Which I will never say that about anything else ever.
It's just cracking me up that you didn't say it.
1 and 2, that's it, bro. Thank you, Deacon Logic. He knows what's up.
Just 1 and 2 for me.
Yeah, so
after that,
Tremors 2, scale of 1 to 10, what you got?
An 8.
8?
7, 8.
I give it a 10.
All right, Freddie, so it's that time again. What do you have in store for us for our home video release of the week?
Well, this week we have another awesome home video release that I've waited for quite some time to see. It's made its festival runs, and it's been delivered to us by the caring hands at Scream Factory. The film is called The Hallow. In The Hallow, we follow British conservationist Adam along with his wife Claire and their baby Finn as they move into a remote cabin in the Irish woodlands where Adam plans to survey the area to have it logged. Which I think is kind of weird, you know, you're a conservationist, but you're going to have the whole place logged.
Especially that area.
Kind of not working, man. But so they have this house, and it's deep in the forest, barricaded with iron bars. Kind of freaking out. Why does it have all the iron bars on it? The wife, Claire, starts taking all the iron bars off, and this neighbor out of nowhere, of course, the old man, don't be taking them iron bars off. You'll all die.
Do that creepy
of course,
lurking over your shoulder.
Never going to listen to it. And the husband just keeps going further and further in the forest, trying to figure stuff out, look at stuff. And kind of like the witch, baby stolen by monsters.
Very creepy looking monsters.
Fairy tale creature monsters that start invading the household, and the only thing that can stop them is light. So they take out the power in the house, and this fungus starts growing everywhere. And it's really cool.
Tar-like fungus.
Yeah, it's really cool because half the time you're thinking, okay, this is something scientific, but this other old man has given us an idea that it's something like out of a fairy tale. Well, the two kind of combined.
And not Disney fairy tales.
Oh, not at all. So the wife and husband have to fight for their lives and their family, especially their child. And it's kind of an invasion movie of these monsters going in the house. And that, my friends, is the greatness of The Hallow. You have been waiting to see this for a while, too.
Yes,
you were not sure what the title was, but I finally delivered it to you. What'd you think of this?
I loved it. The characters were a little frustrating, but other than that, I loved it.
Why were the characters frustrating?
Well, it's like that horror cliche. If you get a warning from some dude who's lived there all his life and understands what's going on and you just don't listen, it's kind of like you're asking for it in a way to me. Like if some dude comes up to me and is like, don't do this, creepy voice, blah, blah, give me all the warnings. I'm not going to, like, he's been there longer than me. Why would I not listen? Especially if you're surrounded by a creepy looking forest and your house is the only one sitting there with all these bars all over the windows.
But
you got to be wondering what's going on.
We're going to go further into the forest because that's what I love. I'm part of nature.
Oh,
and
yes,
I'm
because I want to find the leprechauns.
I will say this, though.
I am sorry for my Irish ancestry
just
for that.
heard you say you love this movie.
Yes.
So of all the movies that I've delivered you that you hated, I think I'm like 6 now that you've loved.
I'm not even counting.
Oh, I'm counting. I'm going to keep counting that. That's going to be epic. So we got director Corin Hardy. He loves Harryhausen films, which actually he is BFFs with Ray Harryhausen. If you guys don't know, he did Clash of the Titans, the animatics and stuff like that. All the stop motion, awesome. Corin Hardy describes this as Straw Dogs meets Pan's Labyrinth. And he got John Nolan, who is described as British Rob Bottin. Now, Rob Bottin, of course, Thing Effects, Howling Effects. I will watch anything that dude's done. I even went so far back as to find a Roger Corman film he did called Humanoids of the Deep, which is extra awesome, by the way. Awesome effects, too. There's almost no CGI, and all of the creatures are practical. With
They're
gangly-looking monsters.
Their movements are creepy.
Only CGI in the movie is to augment the appendages to make them longer and crazier.
Make them look more like Doug Jones.
Exactly. And so you kind of get the feel and the ideas of why Corin Hardy is such a Harryhausen fan with these monsters. You also have Bojana Novakovic, I think I'm saying it, who's Mrs. Ganish's granddaughter in Drag Me to Hell. She plays the lead character, Claire. Which I was like, oh my God, he's pulling from some random little parts.
Got this one and this one.
Yeah. And then the Richard Mall, the guy who is, the father, he's Thomas Lincoln from Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which
That's
I know you
where he
love
was
that
from.
Movie. Yeah.
I look up the actors on IMDb. I'm like, wait, I've seen your face before. I forgot to look up his face. That's where he's from. I was wondering why he looks so familiar.
Apparently, Corin Hardy just loves that damn movie so much. He's like, I've got to get this guy. So I will say
that's another questionable movie, but I enjoyed it.
It's on Netflix right now, right? The Hallow?
Yes, it is on Netflix.
So you guys, I will say this. The Hallow is one of the best monster movies I've seen in a long time. Has an awesome ending. Awesome,
good story.
Yeah, good story. Definitely go check it out. It is on Netflix right now. The Hallow, not Hollow, Hallow. Also, Scream Factory has, of course, IFC Films license. They are putting out all the Blu-rays and DVDs for this. So if you don't see it on Netflix, go check it out. I cannot stress how awesome this movie is.
Especially since practical effects, little to no CGI, like we mentioned earlier. Because the way the creatures move and the way they interact is really, really creepy.
Yeah.
That's what sold it for me, is the way the creatures are, because what's a horror movie without its creatures?
I have not had this much fun with a purchase since Deathgasm, I will say.
And Corin Hardy cites Irish folk tales in the film. They're also based off films like the horror films of Alien, The Evil Dead, and The Thing as influences on this film.
Which, of course, why he would get the British Rob Bottin, because he loves The Thing. Can't go wrong with this movie, guys.
And Evil Dead. It has influences from Evil Dead, his favorite movie ever.
Quick question off topic from H. John 32. Would you survive a zombie apocalypse? Hell no, I am a fat dude who watches horror movies all the time. I would be the first thing they eat.
I'd be the zombie that kills everybody.
As she stated earlier, she wants to become the monster that murders everyone.
I'd be like Resident Evil zombie, have to do all these things to take me out. Like Uber zombie. No?
Like, Jesus Christ.
Uber zombie.
Well, there you have it, guys. Another fun, fact-filled show about what's cooking inside the horror world.
We thank you for sharing our horror-filled hour with us, and remind you that if you have anything to add to any of these topics, feel free to continue this discussion outside of the show on any social media using the handle Nerd Ninja TV.
We would also like to remind you to tune in tomorrow on the Nerd Ninja TV for the Nerd Ninja Girl Show. Tune in at 8:30 tomorrow. And don't forget that every Tuesday at 8:30 is the Nerd Ninja Show, featuring moi. She has been Ash Von Horror, and I have been your Fright Master, Freddy Ruiz, and we thank you for watching the Nerd Ninja Horror Show. Take care, guys. Go check out the Hallow. If you got any questions for us, check us out on our pages on Facebook, Friday the 13th, and Ash Von Horror. See you next time, guys.